When I was in Costa Rica in May, I started in San Jose, where the international airport is, and then I flew over to Tortuguero National Park, which is on the east coast, the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica. After a few days there, I went down to Pequari River, a few days there. Then I went into the cloud forest, which again is still heading south, into San Gerardo de Dota. Where I spent a couple of nights before then heading further south into the Osa Peninsula, where I stayed at a few different hotels down there before coming back on the west coast of Costa Rica, near Manuel Antonio National Park, and then finishing back in San Jose to fly home. The highlights, gosh, there were quite a few. I think one of the main kind of wow moments for me was seeing the quetzal birds in the cloud forest. Literally within minutes of turning up, one flew right over our heads, and then a few minutes later we got to see a couple in the trees. We got some lovely photographs, and then just to finish off, another one flew over our heads on the way out. So that was pretty special morning. That was all before breakfast, which was great. Another highlight for me was when we were down in the Osa Peninsula. There was a new experience. We could go up into a tree canopy. So we actually took, we went up on the ropes, went into this area in the tree, into the canopy, and just sat up there for sunset. And we were literally above the monkeys. We heard them all around us at one point, and yeah, we were looking down on them, which is quite an unusual way to see some of the wildlife. Why go to Costa Rica? It's quite a unique destination because actually you can go and see lots of different wildlife. There's lots of endemic species there, whether it's the birds, the monkeys, the big cats. But also it's a great place to go and do some adventure as well, whether it's zip lining, whether it's the tree experience, whether it's some rafting. So it adds quite a nice combination of all of those things. Plus you can get some beach time if you wanted to as well. Costa Rica also is working really hard with its sustainability, so it's a great place to go and support all of that. The people themselves are living proof of their ethos. They have a phrase called pura vida, which means pure life, and it's all about just living life to the full, but in the purest way, looking after each other, looking after the environment, and obviously all the wildlife. So whenever you meet somebody, the first thing you say is pura vida, but when you leave somebody, you'd also say pura vida. So it's a way of kind of communicating with everybody on all different levels. Costa Rica has a lot to offer, whether it's the wildlife, the adventure, but also the people. Why go to Costa Rica with Steps Travel? Well, during my trip, I went to Manuel Antonio National Park, and this is a very small national park, very easy to access. And when I went in, I was quite horrified actually to see the amount of people, the amount of small guided groups that were around the park. You couldn't go and find wildlife for yourself because there was already a guide looking at the monkey or the bird. So I came away thinking, gosh, if that's how a lot of people visit Costa Rica, I don't think that was an authentic experience. All of the other lodges I went to, whether it was in Tortuguero or Pequari or San Gerardo or down in the Osa, you were kind of in smaller groups. There were other people around, but very few. You had opportunity to kind of look for yourself and find things and look at through binoculars, and your guide was like looking all the time at where all the wildlife will be. So I think it's more of a special experience getting to some of those lodges and the national parks are a little bit further away. When planning to go to Costa Rica, I guess it's worth thinking about the time of year, first of all. November to kind of April is kind of their drier time. It's always going to be wet because you're in the rainforest for some of the time. But that's also when the direct flights with BA operate just 3 times a week from Gatwick, but it's kind of maybe worth considering when planning. You might also want to think about when you're there, whether you're going to go south, whether you're going to go and do north, or whether you're going to do a mixture. Most of the better beaches are in the north, but it might be that you might want to go and see down to the Osa Peninsula, which is in the south, where you get some of the big cats. So it's worth kind of thinking how the routing of your itinerary. Budget wise, you're probably looking, depending on the lodges, etc., between sort of £7,000 to £9,000 per person. And one last thing, when you are in Costa Rica, it is possible to self-drive. You know, if you kind of want that part of an adventure, where you want a bit more independence, you want to be able to stop when you want to, and you're happy, you know, with that that responsibility of driving, then that's very easy to do in Costa Rica. The roads are very easy, very safe, and yeah, you can still have the backup of us behind the scenes. Two of the properties I stayed in were Boena properties. So they have a link, you know, through the same sort of company, and the properties themselves have that thread where they've got amazing guides. The food is incredible. The accommodation itself, super high quality. And actually that is a lovely thing. So to kind of the lodges all have that uniqueness. They're a little bit sort of further out the way. You know, the staff there have really great service, and you're very well looked after at these lodges. The other lodge that I would like to highlight is down in the Ossa Peninsula. It's the SCP Wilderness Lodge down in Corcovado, and this lodge is right on the doorstep to the national park. So literally, when you go out for your day trip, you can just walk down to the bottom, and then you're walking straight into the national park. But also, because you're right on the edge of the national park, you get all the wildlife coming into the lodge. Just the morning we left, we had an ocelot coming into the property. I didn't get to see it, sadly, but it was there. There were pumas down on the beach just a week before we arrived, and the tapir as well were there in the lodge, rubbing their backs against all the trees. So it's really amazing. You don't really have to go very far. The wildlife will come to you. The guides, all the people in Costa Rica have so much knowledge and passion about sustainability and all the things that the country's doing well. This comes through with all of the guides. They've all got kind of their own take on things. They'll tell you some little facts or things that they do or the company does, you know, but actually on the day's guiding, they're again very passionate, they're knowledgeable, they've been doing this for a long time. You know, whether they kind of give you facts about all the monkeys that you see. We saw a family of coati mundis when we were in the Ossa Peninsula, and I think the guide was just as amazed as we were. So that was always quite nice when the guides are seeing something new. And in all of the places, whether it was Tortuguero, whether it was down the Ossa Peninsula, or in San Gerardo de Dota, all of the guides will have these big scopes with them. You'll probably have binoculars, but actually looking through their scopes, they'll set it up for you, and it is great for those good photos, because obviously you can get the really, really close up pictures.